Nobody ever wins a fight.
Roadhouse coming up next. Welcome back to Nerd is the New Cool. I'm Justin. With me, as always, is my good friend, Mr. John Lambert.
What's up, man? How you doing?
I am fantastic. I'm really even better because of the company and because of what we're about to talk about. And speaking of, let's welcome back Mr. Brian Bauer.
Hey there. Howdy.
It's good to have you back on, man. It's been a while.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been
Has
too
been a
long.
while.
And I think well, first of all, we're here to talk about Roadhouse, and it's the 35th anniversary. It's also pretty fitting timing. I'm sure that the ad executives at Prime knew that that's why they would release the new movie as well in the same year. But
Mhm.
it's hard to believe it's been 35 years. And Brian, you pretty much specifically requested to be on this episode. So
Of course.
the initial questions that we always ask is basically, when did you first see it? Why is it great? And why did you need to be on this episode?
Yeah, as astute listeners will remember, this was my choice for the best bad movie ever. I saw this in the theaters in 1989, not opening weekend. You didn't go and see Patrick Swayze movies opening weekend because there was a little too much of a feminine mystique around the theater. You wanted to see it with the guys. And and I think I went to see this with Tyler Hoffman. But anyway, great movie, badass, eminently quotable, Sam Elliott, and goddamn, that hurts, don't it? And it was just a fun movie. It was like reading a book that's at the fifth grade reading level. For me, that's pretty advanced, and I feel really good about it. And I'm like, whoa, look how fast I read that book. To Kill a Mockingbird whipped right through it. So that's what it's like. It's great entertainment.
What I think, if I recall, when you said this is the best bad movie, I vehemently disagreed, saying this is not a bad movie. That's nonsense.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. This movie is just fun. It's action packed, and it really is what I don't know. If you go to see a movie and you want to turn your brain off and just enjoy some stuff, I think this is like the perfect definition
Right,
of that. Lambert, what about you? What are
right,
your initial thoughts
right.
when you see this? What makes it great?
Well, I mean, I agree with what you just said. Like, is this going to win any awards? No, but is it going to be? But is it going to entertain you? Absolutely, and that's the point. Um, I don't know. I was thinking about this today, like when I first saw it, and this is one of those movies where you see bits and pieces of it before you actually sit down and see the whole thing,
Yeah.
like start to finish. It's like, oh, it's Roadhouse. You watch a little bit of it, and like because you know what it is, you hear about it. Um, I can't confirm or deny this, but I may have the first time I saw this all the way through may have been after we met Brian because you would talk about it a lot, and then for whatever reason the universe speaks, and all of a sudden that movie's on TV a lot, and I'm like, oh, Roadhouse, I need to like, oh, I need to see this. So it's very possible the first time I saw this all the way through was within the last 3 years.
It's it's one of those that sneaks up on you, right?
I know, I know,
It's like an airport novel. You can
exactly,
grab it and read it on the plane, and it's perfect.
right.
I think that's absolutely nuts that you just now saw this in your late 30s, early 40s, all the way through.
Well, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Like, I mean, there's a
I
chance
remember
I may
something
have seen
about
it
that.
earlier than that, but like, I've definitely in the last 3 years, I have definitely watched it numerous times all the way through, and I have never
Yeah.
done that in my life. That's for sure.
Nice.
When I can tell you that I don't know, my viewing experience is a little bit different, but this we're kind of in that we're doing a lot of review or movies that are coming up on 35 years, 40 years, 30 years. And that was like prime syndication movie viewing for us, at least like John and I, like growing up, and we're in our, in middle school and grade school and maybe early high school. And so you see all these movies and they're on TBS, they're on TNT, they're on WGN, whatever.
Right.
And so they're in syndication. I know that I certainly saw this movie that was the edited version. I did not see the non-edited version until probably at some point in high school. And that's when I realized that this movie is a step above a lot of the other like just trash action films of the 80s.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's the dialogue that sets it apart. If I'm gonna, I think so.
I agree.
I have a few other things that I think set it apart. I think that again, I already said the ridiculous 80s action, the over the top fight scenes, and they
Right.
are very over the top. It's speaking of another great action movie from the 80s, but we'll talk about that movie another time. The gratuitous violence, I mean, and just the sheer number of bottles that are broken over heads in this movie is I didn't count them, but I'm
Yeah.
going to say it's at least 2 dozen, and that's a lot of bottles being smashed over people's heads.
Yeah.
The also speaking of gratuitous, the gratuitous nudity and
You
sex
got to
scene.
embrace it.
You
Oh,
gotta embrace it.
they lean into it, and I think
Yeah.
for me the hallmark, I guess they're just going to lean into the action trope, is that there is no backstory of our main character. They do not talk about where he's from,
No,
why he's a badass, what his deal is.
what
Nothing.
got him into this business?
This is the man with no name, right? Only he
Nothing.
does have a name, and that name is Dalton, right?
Dalton.
Everybody seems to know about him in this seedy underbelly of bar bouncers or coolers or whatever they actually want to be called. But yeah, it's kind of like a Clint Eastwood movie where he
Yeah.
comes into town. He's there. He's the reluctant hero. You think of him as an anti-hero at the beginning, but then he realizes that the cause is too great to let go. The injustice cannot stand, and he alone possesses the skills in order to solve the problems.
Yeah, I
This
mean,
aggression will not stand, man.
That's right.
so I wanted to talk about another really cool aspect of this movie is that there are basically, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 set pieces in the entire film, and basically it takes place in the bar, right? And I don't know if you guys knew this. I kind of figured out during research and upon the 10th millionth rewatch. This film takes place in Missouri.
Mhm.
It's
Yep.
supposed to be in Jasper, Missouri,
Yeah. Jasper, Missouri.
and the exterior is actually a bar called the Double Deuce, but it was built on location in California, and then eventually was torn down. I one of those like you wish they would have kept it. Like why not keep it part of like the I don't know Universal Paramount Loud or whatever it is.
I'm
But
relatively certain there's a bar in Jasper now called the Double Deuce that looks like that.
really,
I'm
well,
I'm relatively sure.
let's talk. I mean, let's talk that out a little bit because they also built a bar in Anaheim, and when they built
Yeah.
the bar in Anaheim, or didn't build the bar, but they used a bar in Anaheim for a lot of their interior shots. The exterior was the set that was in California. Um,
Right.
is there a bar like this in Missouri that you've ever been to? Have you ever been to a bar that was, I
But
mean, this extreme, but like a bar that you think of like growing up, you're like, it's gonna get rowdy in there, folks. We're gonna have a rowdy time.
uh kind of. I've been in a bar with a cage for the band, but nothing that extreme. No, it's certainly the place where, yeah, if you're not out of there by 1 o'clock, it could get a little rowdy, but other than that, it's usually just live music. So, um, but yeah, no, I've never been in anything that extreme. Nothing on that kind of steroids.
Yeah. Well, I think the closest I've ever been, I mean, there's some bars in Columbia and obviously some bars like that used to be downtown St. Louis. I kind of got this a little bit when you were at Morgan Street. As you progress through the 4 different bars. When you got to the nightclub part, you're like, yeah, there's probably going to be some bottle smashing at some point tonight. But it was
Right.
never just just chaos, absolute chaos. And I always thought also there's some country bars that were in St. Charles that kind of had that vibe slightly, but yeah, nothing this bad.
Nothing that
There's
bad.
only
No.
there's only one that I can think of that comes close, and that is the hot spot where
Yeah.
Jamie Orff sings. Because I told the guy I work with, I was like, yeah, I've been to the hot spot, and he looked at he was like, you've been to the hot spot? Because he's a biker.
Oh,
Like
okay.
he rides motorcycles on the weekends. He's in a motorcycle club, so like he does this all the time. I'm like, yeah, I've been there, and he was like, he just kind of looked at me like I had two heads. He was like, "What were you doing there?" It's like, "Oh, I knew the band, blah blah blah." And he was like, "That doesn't strike me as a place that you would go to." And I'm like, "I mean, there's a lot of bikers there." He's like, "Yeah, that place can get pretty rough sometimes." I'm like, "It was fine every time I was there, but
Hmm.
again, maybe it makes me just caught it on a good night."
Yeah.
So
Let's
yeah,
transition to talk about Swayze and just kind of like what he represents in this movie. I think it's important to mention is kind of where Swayze comes from. Like I personally, the first thing I remember him being in, which is I think actually the first thing he was in was North and South. Did anybody else watch that show?
Oh yeah.
no,
Yeah.
Oh yes, my mother forced me to.
Mine did as well. And it
Yeah.
was so it's a TV miniseries that comes out in like 85, I think. And he is basically like it's a story of brothers during
Right.
the war, and one chooses the North, one chooses the South. And it's like this, I don't know, it was pretty epic at the time, I thought.
It was that was the time of the epic miniseries, right? That was Shogun was not far away from that. And there were several other big miniseries type of events that was happening
Roots,
around that time frame.
Roots,
Roots, exactly
Roots
right.
was a
Yeah.
huge one. Yeah,
Yeah.
He does that. It's one of his like big breakout things. His major breakout thing is when he does Dirty Dancing in 87, obviously.
Mhm.
So that's huge. He actually received a Golden Globe nomination. I didn't even realize that. I mean, I know he's good in it, but you
Well,
know,
don't forget about Red Dawn. Um,
Red Dawn, of course.
Certainly.
Don.
Uh,
And we're gonna get to his like full filmology later on.
right,
I
right,
just think, some things that were big. Then he hits Ghost, and that's like the biggest thing. I mean,
right.
we'll talk more about some songs that he's involved with the soundtrack, but like he became a singer for some of these, including this movie as well. 1991, he's actually chosen by People magazine to be he's considered the top 50 most beautiful people in the world. And he
Ooh.
also wins People magazine's sexiest man alive that year as well. Sadly, he passed away in 2009 from cancer that he'd been battling for a long time. I just want to mention real quick. I know that we have Peak in the Mountain later on, but I want to get to it right now. So when you think of like the lexicon of action stars in the 80s, right? Where does he fall on your Mount Rushmore? And I got a list but before I read the list, I want to know who you guys want to throw out there as like 80s action star Mount Rushmore. Who you got, Brian?
Uh, Schwarzenegger.
Yep. Yep.
Stallone has got to be on
Mhm.
there.
Yep.
Um,
Willis.
Yeah.
I mean, you could
who
go to
else?
the B side for Van Damme.
Right. So I think the top three are kind of solidified.
Right.
Bruce Willis is, I think that he kind of goes, he may be too late 80s. He's maybe more 90s, I think. But
Right.
He's
Yeah.
pretty close. He's like 80,
Yeah.
88
I think
whenever
Harrison
Die
Ford
Hard
kind of
came out.
falls in that category too, because he's kind of like, I know that Indiana Jones
Yeah.
and Harrison Ford
Yeah.
takes both decades. Seagal is worth mentioning.
Sure.
Hmm.
Kurt Russell was an action star for quite a while there.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, he did Tango and Cash and
Yeah. Chuck Norris, Von Damme, and then I also put on Mel Gibson because with the Weapon and
Lethal
Braveheart.
Weapons. Yeah.
But I think though that if you talk like 80s and like the peak power, I think that Swayze has got if he's not on the Rushmore, he's certainly in the conversation, right?
Absolutely. He's Rushmore 2.0. You know, uh, I think he deserves to be up there. What was the other one? Next of Kin with Liam Neeson. Uh, you know,
Point Break, and I know we're getting into the
Point
90s,
Break. Yeah.
amazing, and of course, I mean even Ghost, he's kind of an action star, right? I mean,
Sure. Yeah.
there's a lot of fight
Hmm.
scenes, and he's trying to solve this mystery. Besides the Whoopi Goldberg scenes,
They got his shirt off.
well, I was gonna
Got to
say,
get his shirt off.
besides gratuitous nudity and violence, there's also a lot of opportunities for. I mean, is that what makes a great action star? Is when that he just takes his shirt off for seemingly no reason?
I mean, it certainly has transpired onto Matthew McConaughey and things like that. Yeah, I think so. You know, Cruz has it in his contract that he's got to run in every picture. Why? Because he looks good when he runs. You know, I'm sure they've written it into the contract that yeah, you know, you can hear the agent now. Listen, my guy's got to have his shirt off. Okay, not on, off.
Gone are the days though where we have a significant portion of a film dedicated to an actor doing Tai Chi in spandex pants and no shirt, which
Yeah, you got to be willing to let some air into the movie, right? Let it breathe a little bit.
so let's get into the categories. Let's start with the deep dive. So the summary, according to IMDb, is a bouncer hired to clean up the baddest honky tonk in a Missouri town. Armed with a black belt in karate and a degree in philosophy, Patrick Swayze sets out to tame the double deuce for its owner. Now, Brian, you got a different summary that you want to read for us, which was apparently number 2 at IMDb.
Number two, written by a gentleman, I'm assuming, I don't want to misgender anyone, named Nick Reganis. Serene and laconic, but powerful and lethal. Expert martial artist Dalton is the best professional bouncer in the business. With his reputation preceding him, Dalton arrives in Jasper, Missouri to clean up the Double Deuce, a seedy bar terrorized by troublemakers. However, Dalton is unaware that villainous local entrepreneur Brad Wesley wants things to stay as they are. As a result, the newcomer gets a deep stab wound from Wesley's hired goons, catching charming physician Dr. Elizabeth Clay's eye. For this alone, corrupt Wesley has enough reason to get rid of Dalton at all costs, but a bouncer like Dalton always has the final say.
I feel like that was like the pitch to the executives to
Yeah, that's
Right.
the treatment, right?
this.
Right.
Well, Nick, very well said. Thank you. I like that way better than the one I read.
Yeah.
Or
This-
that's like the description on the back of the DVD.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
This is whenever he writes the novel about Dalton, this is the blurb on the back book cover.
Yes. Exactly.
Way better. This debuted May 19th, 1989 in the US. It has a runtime of an hour, 45 minutes, estimated budget of 17 million, and a gross worldwide of just over 30 million. So it actually performed pretty well at the box office, which a lot of these movies we've been doing, not necessarily the case. A lot of them they became amazing because of VHS,
Sure.
DVDs and whatnot. Hour and 40 or 54 minutes. John, do you feel like that was, did it feel like it took that long, or do you feel like it was a much faster watch?
It's a fast watch. It doesn't feel like it was 2 hours long.
No. This movie goes, man. Like it is.
I know. Like it's one thing. Like it hits the ground running.
I agree.
And for me, we'll get to scenes in a minute, but it was like, oh, what, it's like when you walk in to watch this movie and you turn it on TV, like what scenes are keeping you there? And it's like, well, the opening scene, he's being a badass. I'm gonna keep watching. Oh, it's the scene where he's, taking the lady off the table. I gotta stick it in from here now. Like it just keeps happening.
Right.
And then when the violence and the confrontation ramps up, you're like, well, I gotta watch him rip out a fucking trachea. I'm not going anywhere for the next.
Right. Now you're pot committed. You got to keep. You're in it to win it.
Right.
BS rankings. These numbers. I don't know.
Joke.
I guess this is back to Brian's. This is a bad movie. Rotten
Okay.
Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Rotten Tomatoes 44%. Audience score 67%. So we're propping them up a little bit. And IMDb has basically the exact same score of a 6.7. So
Yeah.
these scores are not surprising. Perhaps disappointing.
No. Yeah.
They're disappointing because I feel that there's an education that could be helpful to these people that don't think it's a good movie. Yeah, it's like that. I just wish they could look at it in the right way.
Mm-hmm. I know, I agree. And maybe like in a way that you take your critic lenses off and you're like, let's just have a good time, guys.
We're supposed to have fun at movies. It's an escape. I mean, fuck, it's miserable. Everybody wants. One of the things I think that makes Patrick Swayze a great action star of the 80s, to kind of touch back on that a little bit, is the fact that he is kind of an everyman. He's not huge, right? Schwarzenegger was ripped. Stallone got ripped after Rocky 1, right? Before Rocky 2, he got built and lots of plastic surgery. Van Damme ripped, winning karate competitions. Who knows with Seagal, right? And I don't even know what the fuck that is. There's some sort of weird Taoist mysticism thing happening there. But Patrick Swayze's a bit of an everyman too. Yeah, he's a good looking version, but he's not, just I don't know that he's the most beautiful person in the world, but I can relate to him as an everyman kind of character,
Yeah, I mean,
not necessarily Jimmy Stewart, but
I think that's why Bruce Willis and why even Harrison Ford were so
right.
and even though they're good action stars, they're not. It's not the unobtainable physique or like superhuman, whatever it is.
Sure.
So these next couple categories, probably people we haven't really heard from. So like the Spielberg Award for directing goes to Rowdy Harrington. He directed Gladiator, but I need to make sure we all know it's not Gladiator that we know with Russell Crowe.
Not Ridley Scott. He's not Ridley Scott. Is what you're saying.
No, but it
Right.
is the one with Cuba and James Marshall, and I like that
The boxing movie. The boxing movie.
It is,
Yeah.
yeah. He also
I don't know
directed,
that I've seen that one, so
oh, it's pretty good. He also
Yeah.
directed Striking Distance, which I think is a very, very overlooked
underrated.
Willis movie.
Okay.
So it's with Bruce Willis and Sarah Jessica Parker,
Mhm.
serial killer. Very great. I think it's very good. It's twisted. And he also directed Bobby Jones' Stroke of Genius, the movie with Jim Caviezel. The Tarantino Award for writing goes to R. Lance Hill. Now, apparently he used to call himself David Lee Henry. That's the credit.
Okay.
But
That's
so when he wrote this, that was what he was going by, and now his name is actually R. Lance Hill. He also wrote 8 Million Ways to Die, which is the one with Jeff Goldblum. He also wrote Out for Justice,
okay.
Steven Seagal, and the newest Roadhouse that just came out this year. Tom Hanks' best leading role obviously goes to Patrick Swayze as James Dalton. I didn't think there was anyone else that fits the category for
No.
leading role, right?
Yeah,
Nope.
of course.
This is his movie.
Yeah.
We're going to get more into, we already talked about him a little bit. We'll get more into him later on.
And to be honest, this was one of the earlier ones that they gave him to carry the whole thing, right? Am I remembering the timeline? Because when was Dirty Dancing? Because that was kind of shared with Jennifer
2 years
Grey.
before this.
Yeah, it's a couple years
Okay.
before that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so this was the first one where it was
And
definitely
and
his
Wolverines
movie.
was definitely an ensemble.
Yeah,
This
Yeah.
was like his coming out party. This and
right.
Ghost.
And Outsiders, let's not forget. I mean,
But
there's an
also
interesting episode
also an
is
ensemble though.
right, but there's an
Yeah.
interesting episode as The Outsiders, and where are they now, kind of thing.
Yeah. A lot of people movie for sure. All right, now we get to maybe make some decisions here, have some conversation. So the other four Jacksons Award, I got Kelly Lynch, who plays Dr. Elizabeth Clay. Has a really interesting filmography, a lot of weird things, but basically you would know her from Cocktail. That's the other
Yeah,
thing she was in. She's also in
Yep.
Virtuosity, and I don't even remember that, even though I've seen Virtuosity. I like that movie. Sam Elliott plays Wade Garrett. I think we all know and love Sam Elliott. He's been a gazillion things. Noted
yeah.
mostly for me is Big Lebowski, but obviously he's been in a ton of other things. Ben Gazzara plays Bad Wesley, also in Big Lebowski, but he has 133 credits. He started acting in 1952. That's
Wow.
quite a storied career.
He
And
also died of pancreatic cancer.
yeah, you're right. Yep. And then finally, we got Marshall R. Teague, who plays Jimmy. And Marshall R. Teague is in a bunch of random TV shows and some like kind of.
Yep, he was a victim in an episode of Columbo.
Was he really?
Yes.
Well, the one thing I recognized him from in his entire list of things was he plays Colonel Davis in Armageddon,
Right.
one of the pilots there. Okay, Brian, who are you picking for the best secondary character?
It's got to be Wade Garrett to me. I mean, it's just one. I never wanted to have long gray hair more than after seeing him as Wade Garrett, right? That hairstyle, I've always aspired to it. I've never been able to get it in my entire life. I just feel like that is a look that I like, and for him, he just didn't have a care in the world. Kick the big, and again, another everyman, right? He doesn't move really fast and he punches old school style and everything like that. But you take the biggest man in the world, kick him in the knee, he's going down. And then he kicks that guy in the knee and he's just like, damn, that hurts, don't it? I mean, it's just my favorite thing.
If
So
he would have done like the 1940s like boxing style, wouldn't have shocked me at all. Like that's he's just old school.
yeah, he can pull it off totally. I mean, I fell in love with him during Mask, way back.
Mhm.
And I just think he's such a talented guy. that I love it. I love the character and I love him playing it. I
Yeah,
thought he brought credibility to the movie too.
yeah, he is the coolest guy on screen. Lambert, do you agree?
Yeah.
Or do you got somebody else?
I agree.
So I'm going to agree as well, but I do think it's worth noting that he doesn't come in until like close to the third act of the movie. It's
Right.
past the halfway point when he finally makes an appearance. And I mean, he's really only on screen for like two or three scenes and then he's gone,
Mhm.
right? So he makes a big impression in a small amount of time. Ben Gazzara though is fucking awesome in this movie. And I do think Jimmy is one of the best villains that as soon as he's on screen, you're like, oh, God, someone punched that fucker in the face.
Right.
He is the worst. I cannot wait till fucking the duo and he gets the shit kicked out of him
I
finally.
can't
Right.
wait till
Yeah.
Dalton kicks your ass.
Oh,
Right.
I mean, there's not a lot of villains where you're like, I just cannot wait for him to get his fucking ass kicked. Like more.
Yeah, you look at him once, you're like, ooh, that guy's going down.
Yeah. Every villain wants to be a real character and be three-dimensional and everything. We don't want that. We want a bad guy. Give me a bad guy to
It's a
root
bad
for.
guy, right? Yeah,
Yep.
I don't even
Not even a
remember.
bad guy. He's a bad guy's henchman.
Yeah.
And he used to fuck guys like him in prison, right? So
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
all right. But having said that, Sam Elliott,
Hey,
backup
pretty
singers.
progressive. So
That's true. You're right. Backup singers. So we got Julie Michaels who plays Denise, and she's also from Point Break. Now, this is a fun little fact. Apparently, she was very nervous leading up to doing her topless tabletop dance scene because she had never performed nude before. But unfortunately, her boyfriend committed suicide. This is dark. Before the night
yeah.
before filming, and producers said they would postpone the shoot, but she told them she'd do it even though she was an emotional wreck. So perhaps that was a way to quell her anxiety a little bit. I don't know. That's terrible.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Red West plays Red Webster, who
I
we
feel like he's going to have a hard time getting cast as anyone named something
Not
other than
named Red.
Red. Yeah, exactly.
uh why do they call you Red? Maybe because I'm Irish. 108 credits. The thing I recognized the most was from Rainmaker. And we have Keith David, who plays Ernie Bass. 389 credits. They
Love Keith David.
The Thing, Armageddon. I'll go first on this one. I don't know how you don't pick Keith David. He's got to be the winner for me. Brian, what do
Uh, yeah, I'd go with that. Yeah, definitely.
you seem reluctant.
I no, it's just it's I think I mean her boyfriend killed himself the night before the shoot and she still got up and did it. I feel like that deserves a little bit of a nod, but all right. Ernie gets it.
We can give it to Julie Michaels.
No,
I don't think Keith
no,
David will be mad about it.
yeah, I mean she didn't get a career out of it. I mean she get the award.
Lambert, tiebreaker.
It's
Are you
Keith David.
okay?
It's Keith David only
He's-
because of Men at Work breaks the tie.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. That's fair. But shout out to Julie Michaels.
Shout out.
The John Williams category for music. So here's some interesting facts. So Michael Kamen basically did all of the composing and some other films that he's done the composing and writing for. This is a really eclectic group of films.
But it's a good list.
It's a really good list. Highlander, Lethal Weapon, all right. Then Adventures in Babysitting, Die Hard, Robin Hood or Prince of I almost said Men in Tights. Robin Hood, that would be great too. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, Mr. Holland's Opus, 101 Dalmatians. If you can't see me on screen, I'm going back and forth with my hands because these are fucking like pendulum swings. Event
Crazy.
Horizon, Event Horizon, the most traumatizing movie of my life. X-Men, and then Band of Brothers.
Wow.
This is a heck of a list, right? Good for Michael Kamen. He should get more
Yeah,
notoriety.
I'm right.
There's some good ones on there.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. Here's kind of a fun little tidbit. The Jeff Healey Band, they serve as the house band for the Double Deuce. They had their
Double
biggest
Deuce.
hit Angel Eyes on the charts while Roadhouse was still in theaters. But the song isn't actually from this movie. Healy, he's a blind Canadian guitarist, and his group recorded their album "See the Light" concurrently with the movie soundtrack. So they're kind of doing both.
Nice. Hey, you're in the studio, just two birds, one stone.
Well, so here's where we can actually pick something as far as the winner. So what's our favorite song from the soundtrack? So here are a few, the big ones. We got "On the Road Again," um, which is basically, well, actually, here are all the songs performed by Jeff Healey Band. "On the Road Again," "Confidence Man," Long Tail Sally," "Traveling Band," and "White Room." We also have "Run Around Sue," which is performed by Dion DiMucci. Sorry if I,
Dion.
It's Dion.
Dion.
Shaboom, performed by the Crew Cuts. "Mustang Sally," performed by Wilson Pickett. And "These Arms of Mine," performed by Otis Redding. John, you go first on this one. What's your favorite song from the soundtrack?
I mean, if I'm gonna pick probably my favorite song, it's gonna be White Room because you
Yeah,
can't go wrong with Cream.
that's fair. I'll go next. I'm going to pick "Mustang Sally," and this is going to be a sentimental thing. I know I don't do this very often, but my uncle Lester just passed away, and his thing was to go to basically to bars whenever they were having, and he had a band and everything, but his major song was "Mustang Sally." I mean, he could fucking kill it. So whenever I see or hear "Mustang Sally," I think of my uncle Lester, R.I.P. So that's sentimentally, I'm picking that one.
But that's also a
Nice.
great song. It's Wilson
That's a
Pickett.
great
Well,
song.
it's also a
It's a
great song.
fantastic song. It's
Yeah.
also a great song. Can't go wrong.
Yeah, I really like Long Tall Sally, but
Mhm.
also These Arms of Mine. I mean, Otis Redding is on the playlist, so
Yeah.
he's on the yeah, Getting Groovy pit playlist, on the iPad.
Right. Yeah.
And then those are
Well, let's not pick a winner. There's all three good choices. This soundtrack is good.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
I'd go with the one. I'd go with Mustang Sally. I like the story, so
thank you. All right. Sounds good.
cool.
Into scenes to nerd out on. And I think that there are actually a lot of scenes in this movie, despite it being a pretty quick watch. And I think that's what happens when you have a movie that's a quick watch, is that there are lots of continuous, like shorter scenes. It's not like a long, drawn out 20-minute set piece that is just kind of wears on you a little bit, frankly.
Right.
So I'm gonna rattle some off, and you guys can jump in and add more. I already mentioned the first scene of the movie basically is they're at the old place, and you don't really see Dalton become a badass, but the fact that he declines the fight shows you how big of a badass he is.
Right.
You're like, okay, that could have easily in the hands of a lesser writer or director, like he shows off how big of a badass is, and everyone's like, oh, that's cool. But I
Yeah.
think the absence of that is like, this dude doesn't even need to fucking fight you, and he already fucking bested you, you know?
Yeah.
I like the next scene, which is when Dalton shows up to the Double Deuce and he's just observing, drinking his coffee, watching the shit show that is the Double Deuce.
The skimming.
hmm then Dalton takes over and he basically fires a few people and sets the rules. So sets the tone of what's going on. He doesn't fire everyone yet, because the next scene is the first night. And you've got the girl on the table, he breaks up a fight, and then he eventually fires, kind of cleans house. That's the end of the bad people.
Yeah. What's his name? Banging the waitress or somebody in the storage
yep.
room.
And the
The other
bartender.
guys, yeah, the bartender skimming, selling drugs. Yeah, everybody.
Yeah.
So the next thing I have is Brad Wesley shows up, and this is the intro of Brad Wesley basically is him driving down the road, just swerving around.
Right.
The fuck, and almost hits Dalton. He's like, "What
Shaboom,
the
shaboom.
yeah, yeah,
Shaboom.
what a fucking dickhead."
Yeah.
And then and obviously they
But I
made
mean, what about Dalton buying the shit car? Had he bought that already when we meet Brad Wesley?
yeah,
Yeah, because the first night he gets his
Yeah, his tire slashed, right?
that's
because he
right.
knew it was going to happen because he had a trunk full of tires.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's not his first rodeo.
So our next like scene is like one of the bigger fights. It's all Wesley's goons attack Dalton in his office, and now you get to really see Dalton like in full blown action. You see it a little bit earlier, but
Right.
like he's just kicking fucking ass right now.
Yeah, close quarters.
Mhm.
Because the guy comes back and says he's getting his job back. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now Wade gets introduced, and I kind of he does the same thing with the army guys to the strip club, which
Well,
is
but that's also when they go to the hospital, right? Doesn't he get
Because
stitches that night?
he gets stabbed in that fight, and that's when he
Yeah,
meets
yeah.
Kelly Lynch.
meets the doctor.
I won't lie to
Yeah.
you. I don't think I put a lot of Kelly Lynch scenes on here. I don't really care
Right.
about that part of the story, but like I guess it is sort of pivotal. Not really,
The
but
best part of the love story to me is whenever you know that she would leave him for Sam Elliott in a heartbeat. Uh,
can you blame him?
no.
No.
The next scene I have is the goons return, and there's the big old fight outside. And the quote that I have
Was
is
Yeah.
"You're too stupid to have a good time."
That's a good one.
That was funny. Dalton meets with Wesley,
I
and
like that scene because that's where you see how badass Dalton is too, where he's like left boot or right boot or whatever.
yeah, yeah,
He's got a blade on it.
yeah, it's pretty great. So Dalton meets with Wesley, and they have like the little hash out thing and a lot of jockeying there. But obviously Dalton doesn't agree, and he eventually gets the next part is him getting booze delivered with Wade arriving. So Wade is now on the scene. But again,
Great fight scene there.
it's like 5/8 of the way through the movie when
Yeah.
Wade shows up.
Right. Right.
Uh, I just put the next scene is Jimmy with the pool cue,
Yeah.
which is kind of fun.
Is that
And
the same night that she's dancing on the table?
no, that's earlier. The table, that's the
Okay.
first time where the first time he breaks up a fight, and um that's when he fires the last two guys.
Hmm.
Pretty much right after the pool cue fight, one of the next scenes is basically Jimmy and Dalton fighting by the lake. And
Yeah.
just getting his fucking trachea pulled out and and bye-bye Jimmy.
Yeah, they apparently were both really like into the karate aspect of it, and their trainer was a black belt in karate. Apparently, have you seen this or heard this story?
No.
And that they didn't like each other at first, and then really respected each other's work ethic, and ended up becoming friends because they were so both wanting to do the stunts as much as they could. They'd be willing to take a punch, right? And so several times there were actual real hits and everything like that, but they ended up becoming very good friends after learning to fight. And they both had kind of the same work ethic to where they were just going at it after and after and after and after it during this fight that took like 2 days to shoot.
I love that, and it's really a great fight scene, and then there's a lot of good back and forths, and it's not one of those where you're like, okay, here's the moment where the bad guy has a couple good shots in, and then now the good guy is about to win. Like it is
Right.
believable that it is an equal battle until kind of the end when Dalton's like, "Fuck, I got to go barbarian on you because I just
Right.
you took me to the next level, and I'm just gonna fucking straight out pull out your jugular."
Right.
Wade Garrett already forecasted it in the restaurant,
Yeah.
Man sticks a gun in your face, you got two choices. You can die or you can rip his fucking throat out.
And there he goes. Way to telegraph that. Good.
Yeah.
Well, then speaking of Wade, the next scene is basically he gets beat up and he's killed. And
Yeah, stabbed, right?
I don't. First of all, I don't like this scene very much. I'm sorry if this is your favorite part, but he's just there stabbed, and I'm like, who stabbed him? Like who's the guy? Or is just one of the goons? I guess.
No. It's the same knife that the mustachioed bartender pulled out in the office.
Okay, so we're assuming it's the bartender.
That was always my presumption, was that it was the bartender.
Okay.
And that's why he was so mad, because go to acting school 101 and watch Patrick Swayze take that knife out of Dalton's dead chest. As he reached in slowly, you could just see all of the emotion in his face as he was pulling that knife out. And then he knew who he was going to go and get.
Okay, all right. Well, I like that better now. I did not enjoy that. I personally would have liked to see. I want to see that scene where Wade
Right.
gets jumped and he like somehow battles and fucking bloodies and bruises everybody, but then maybe gets
Yeah.
like fucking shivved when he's not paying attention. I want to see that scene.
I feel like when we saw the goons after that scene, there were bruises and shit all over them. It's
Yeah.
difficult to tell when they appeared, but I've always felt like, yeah, Wade put up a good fight. Um, but there were just too many of them.
Yeah.
Or somebody sucker punched him with a baseball bat or something.
And that's fair. And I guess like in a movie where you're like, oh, maybe less is better, but like we're already having all these fight scenes. Like throw that one in too, you know? Like
Right.
why not have it?
Right.
Yeah.
The last scene I have is basically like the end, how they wrap it up. Dalton's rampage kills all the henchmen and Wesley. Um, and then we get to see, I think, like
Yeah.
fathers of the town show up and basically
Yeah.
end the whole thing. And this is
The
our
I am
town.
Spartacus
This is
moment.
our town. Don't you forget it. Like wherever
Mhm.
this came from, all of a sudden.
Yep.
So Brian, as our guest, what's your favorite scene?
Oh boy. I'd say my favorite uh overall scene is probably the fight scene on the back dock when we meet Wade. That like that whole long scene, how he just totally takes his time. It's like, you got a runny little son bitch around here named Dalton, or whatever he said, something like that. And he's like, I think he's out back. And he just stands there all quiet watching Dalton getting his ass kicked for a while.
Yeah.
He's like, how you doing there, coachees? But I think that's probably my favorite, the introduction to Wade Garrett. And
Yeah.
then he's got the knee kick. And also, since I've worked in that industry, that's not at all how it works.
No.
Um, but yeah, that's my favorite.
That's a good one, Lambert.
I I like it's borderline Hamilton where like it's his first night and he's just like drinking coffee, just sitting back, just watching.
Yeah.
He's just observing. He's 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 looking very unassuming, but he's not missing a thing. He sees everything that's going on and everything that's not going on, and it just kind of sets the stage for who he is as a character.
Yeah, I think
I like
that
that one.
along with like the first scene where it's the same thing, like he doesn't get goaded into a fight and he's just a badass and
Right,
guy out. You're
right,
like, yeah. But having
yeah,
said that though, I do especially like that porch scene as well. Where
Yeah.
the goons show up and Wade's there and yeah, that's my favorite. That's a fun fight scene.
My favorite line though is in the hospital with Kelly Lynch when he goes, "Pain don't hurt."
Pain don't hurt. That's right.
It's just so
so
perfect.
some of my patients would disagree.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Do you enjoy pain? All
Pain
right.
don't hurt.
Heath Ledger Award for scene stealing. I got two nominees. Tell me if you got more. I got Wade, Sam Elliott, and Jimmy Marshall Teague. Any others? Lambert?
No,
Who's your pick from those two?
it's hard for me not to pick Sam Elliott just because he's so cool.
Brian, are you thinking the same
Yeah,
thing?
I'm in the same boat. Yeah.
Okay, I agree. He's the coolest guy again on screen. We already said that, but
Right.
all right, Dante.
especially younger Sam Elliott. Like,
Yeah.
God, could he just stay that age forever?
I feel
Right?
like he was the same age for 30
I
fucking
know
years.
he
Like
he
Yeah, he's
was,
been
and then he got old. Like
yeah.
it was like he was okay, and then he got old fast.
all
But
of a
he's been
sudden
that
he's
same
in
age my entire life
yeah.
until just like recently. Even
Oh,
in A Star Is Born, he still looked the same age.
yeah, and then he does 1883 and you're like, "Oh, now he's old." Yeah.
Now he's
Yeah.
old.
But
Yeah.
still
I haven't watched that yet, but
he's
yeah.
still a badass. Spoiler alert.
Yep.
All right, Dante's Peak. The first nominee are just bar movies, right? So here are my nominees for best bar movies. Cocktail is in 1988. Obviously, this one in 89. Coyote Ugly, that's in
Yeah.
2000. Cheers, I know it's not a movie, but I think it's worth mentioning. Bar just scenes or whatever. That ran from 82 for 11 seasons. Put How I Met Your Mother on there. That's maybe not the same
I
thing,
was going to say, yeah.
but they're in the bar for an awful. Maybe we could do a TV versus movie one. 2005 for 8 seasons, and of course I'm sticking with TV. I got It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which also came out in 2005, and that's been going on for 16 seasons. I think it's renewed
Yeah.
19, so it's still going. So, all right, so let's do movies. Cocktail, Coyote Ugly. This. Are there any other nominees or like Brian? Do you have a favorite? What's like? What do you think is like the
I mean,
best R movie ever?
can I say Casablanca?
No, that was one I considered putting on there, but I wasn't sure if that was.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, you know, there's a bar fight. It's got everything and Bogart to me,
Yeah,
but that's just me.
no, I like that. That's good. I don't know that people, if you were to ask people what kind of movie is Casablanca, I don't think they would say bar movie. But
Yeah.
but I mean that, I do think it's a good nominee. Lambert, what do you think?
Um,
I really did search. I couldn't find a lot. They were like, this is a bar movie. I'll go next. I actually
so one, and it's kind of a bar movie. From Dusk Till Dawn takes place
Yeah.
in a bar the whole time,
That's good, but
and then
still, people would
and then
still.
another one on this list. It's centered around a bar. It's it's actually a movie that I like, The Drop, with James Gandolfini and Tom Hardy.
Oh, yeah. That was a
That's another. I
really
mean,
good movie,
yeah,
but kind of hard to watch. Is it like I finished watching that movie and have never felt compelled to watch it again. Does that
see,
make
I
sense?
have,
Okay.
and I
I
have
maybe I
like,
should try give it another shot and see.
yeah, it's one that I enjoy. Um, but
Okay.
but that being said,
I think the answer's got to be Cocktail. I mean, I
I
don't know.
mean, it's this or Cocktail. Like, let's be honest.
I mean, I
And
guess, and if you
Oglin's Law.
and not to be like sexist, but I think if you ask like our wives, they'd probably say Coyote Ugly. Um, maybe not, but I think it's got to be Cocktail.
I think it's probably Cocktail.
Yeah.
But these are, I mean, those two, 89, 88, like that's kind of peak of like
Right.
some movies. TV wise, I think it's I mean, Cheers, it's got to be Cheers. I mean,
It's Cheers. It's totally Cheers.
Yeah.
and I think if you ask maybe our age, a lot of them maybe haven't seen Cheers, but they still may say Cheers just because they know like their parents watched it.
They know
Right.
of it.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
You probably heard the theme a lot.
Yeah, definitely. So Sam Elliott is our next Dante's Peak. So here's some things he's been in, and I'm totally cutting out a lot, but I want to get to the big hitters. So this is an 89. He's in Gettysburg in 93. He's in Tombstone in 93. Big Lebowski in 98. He also was in The Hulk, or just Hulk in 2003.
Mhm.
And then again, 1883, that's in 2001, 2002.
The
So,
Star is Born.
Mhm.
He's in
2018.
yeah, whenever that came out, he's in that.
so
I mean, prior to this, there was Mask. I mean, there was a lot of things, but
yeah.
Mask is the big one for me that I remember.
I think it's 93 with Gettysburg and Tombstone.
It's
I think
Tombstone, for sure. Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Last peak, Patrick Swayze. Again, I didn't put everything on here because there's a lot of things he's been in. We already mentioned a couple with The Outsiders, with North and South, but he's also in Youngblood in 86,
Oh, yeah.
which I love that movie.
Fucking young blood.
Dirty Dancing is in 87. This is in 89. Ghost is in 90, and Point Break is in 91. Brian, you go first.
I mean, I love Red Dawn, certainly, but I'd probably go with Ghost.
Yeah,
That was
it's got to be Ghost. I don't want to
Yeah.
say it's Ghost. I want to say it's this. I want to say it's Youngblood. I want to say it's Point Break, but it's got to be Ghost. I mean, that
Yeah.
was
It's
that's when he
Ghost.
broke into full pop culture. It's not an action star anymore. It's a love story.
Right.
You've got Demi Moore. You've got just I mean, it's actually a pretty good movie.
Yeah. And I think he got a Golden Globe nomination
Oh yeah, I'm sure you
for
got a
Ghost.
movie
Yeah.
definitely award nominees. So
Right.
next category, Quoth the Raven. Favorite quote. So good way to do this is maybe we just take turns. So I'll start. Dalton, I want you to be nice until it's time to not be nice. Yeah.
So stupid. I mean, for me and for Dalton, it's pain don't hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's a good one too. Um, this one's from I think it was can't remember. I think it was Wesley. I'll get all the sleep I need when I'm dead.
That's Wade.
Wait, wait,
Oh, right. Yeah, Wesley had a good
wait.
one though, where he's after he fires the gun in the bar to stop the dancing, uh, or stop the cube stick fight, the pool stick. When he's like, "This isn't working out, Dalton."
I think we already said a lot of these quotes. Like I used to
Yeah.
fuck like you and President. Like we already kind of mentioned a lot of these. So
Right.
any other ones?
Oh, I've got one.
Oh, go. Okay.
It's a it's a back and forth. Being called a cocksucker isn't personal. No, it's two nouns combined to elicit a prescribed response. What if somebody called my mama a whore? Is she?
Is she? That's good.
Yeah, that's
Love
great.
it.
That's great.
Love it.
Brilliant. You know, when we were talking about scenes too, we didn't mention the monster truck scene at the car dealership, which is just the most
Oh
ridiculous thing
yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
You
Oh, I
know,
forgot
just
about
like I'm
that
going to
one.
drive this monster. Jimmy's going to drive the monster truck. That's how you know he's the henchman, you know.
Also, how
Right,
you know, like it's an '80s movie that like people just had monster trucks. Like that was like a thing you could just
right.
own.
Yeah.
That was a luxury item.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, the you're canceled category. Is there anything you can think of that we need to? I know this movie just got remade. We'll get to that in a second, but anything you would take out of this film for it to be redone exactly how it is now? I
I don't
personally,
know.
I couldn't think of
Doesn't
anything. I was like trying to go. I was upon the rewatch. I was like, what is not appropriate here? And I couldn't come up
I
with it.
mean, what is it called? The Bechdel or something? What's that test about? Does it pass does it have women in a leading role and enough whatever, you know? Is it diverse enough? I don't think it
Bechdel
needs to
test,
be. Yeah, is that what it
Bechdel
is? The
Wallace
Bechdel?
test,
Yeah.
the Bechdel Wallace test. Yeah.
I mean, no, it's certainly not very diverse. I guess that would be the one thing to improve upon it, but it's also about a redneck fucking
Right,
town.
exactly. You can make it diverse or you can make it accurate.
You and honestly, would you even want more representation in this fucking area? Like,
Right.
probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Bechdel test is to pass the film must have one have at least two women in it who
Okay.
two talk to each other about three something besides a man.
Uh,
I just
I don't think
watched.
this.
I just
I
watched
don't
a
know.
really quick reel, and it was Lord of the Rings, but only from scenes of two women talking to each other. And then it has the whole like opening
It's like
credit,
one scene.
and it's the mom asking the dot telling the daughter in like one of like the pubs, "We got to go," and then it cuts to directed by Peter Jackson. That was literally
That's
it.
hilarious.
Yep. Yep.
So it's better than that. All
Yeah.
right,
Better than that.
another Spider-Man again. Who are we recasting? This is Lambert's favorite and also best category. Let's start off with Elizabeth Clay, again, played by Kelly Lynch. At the time, she was 30.
Yes.
I will start this category. We'll take turns starting. I will nominate. This is very controversial, but I don't even care. I'm nominating Amber Heard. I think
Oh, see, I left her off.
Oh,
no, no,
Tarantino
I
uncanceling
think you
people
need
over here.
someone who's a little dirty, who's a little around the edges. Having said that, my favorite nominee, and I really like this one, is Megan Fox.
Oh, okay.
Brian, you go.
Okay.
Jennifer Lawrence.
Okay.
She's a little bit older now. Maybe throw a kid in the mix.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but she's still in her 30s.
Yeah.
Jennifer Lawrence is.
Yeah.
We
Who
score.
am I to judge?
We going around the horn, or Brian, do you have more?
Oh, yeah, no, I'd stick with Jennifer Lawrence.
So I've got three. Hildebrand, how many more
Wow.
do you have?
I'm done. I said mine.
Okay. I've got Lily Collins.
Who's that?
Baby
She
Driver,
was
Okay, all
she
right.
was in
I got it.
no, she was in Lily Collins was Collins in um
Emily in
what's
Paris.
no, no yes, Emily in Paris, she's in that too. But she was in The Blind Side. She was the daughter in The Blind Side.
Okay.
She's
Bill
older now.
Collins' daughter.
Yeah. Jodie Comer.
Oh, yeah, from Eve.
Mm-hmm. And then Emily Van Camp,
Um,
who is Sharon Carter in Marvel. She's Agent 13.
yeah, yeah.
Those are
Agent
my three.
13.
Here's the
Or
thing, and this is
Oh,
gonna
Agent
I
Carter.
no, she's not Agent Carter. Agent Carter is her aunt,
Oh,
technically.
gotcha. Okay, got it.
Not
can I
her.
can I advocate for I think those are all really great nominees, and I think if you're remaking that today and you're adding more layers to the Doctor, I think you're right. Those are all really great. But I think the reason why Kelly Lynch was cast is that she's very good looking and she doesn't bring a whole lot. It's almost like not.
She doesn't talk
That's
a lot.
cardboard.
I'm not trying to insult like Megan Fox,
Yeah,
but I think she's
she's a
just
blow
there.
up doll.
She has a very like singular reason to be in this movie.
Exactly.
It's kind of for the sex scene later on. And I know it's incredibly insensitive, but like that's just an 80s movie, an 80s action movie. So
Yeah,
if we're recasting it to make it better, yes, Lambert, every one of yours and Brian yours too, those are all better nominees. But I think for like what this movie is doing intentionally,
yeah.
I think you got to put in someone like Megan Fox. I mean, I'm just saying, like, so that's my pitch.
Okay.
I'll allow it.
All right, let's move on. Brad Wesley. We're gonna recast Brad Wesley. Ben Gazzara at the time, 57 years old. Like he's looking good for 57 years old, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then knowing that he's, I mean, he's fucking 67 in Big Lebowski. That's fucking
Hmm.
good for Ben Gazzara. So I'm not gonna go first this time. Brian's gonna go first this time. Who do you got? Any nominees?
Uh, I like Jamie Foxx.
I
I
like.
think,
Okay.
I think he's just over the top enough. He's willing to do, not everything clearly is going to be an Oscar role for him.
Right.
Um, but I think he could be the asshole millionaire who could also put up a good fight. You could believe that he would do well against a Dalton. Um, I don't know. Certainly Bruce Willis before his condition.
Yeah, he would have actually been really good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Lambert, Lambert, who you got?
And probably would have done it too, given the amount of movies he was making.
Yeah, I don't
He's
know.
making a lot of he's made a lot of movies.
Yeah.
I've got three names. Do you want me to list all three, or do you want me to just
Yeah.
start with
Oh,
one?
go. You do three, and I got two.
All right. So I have Matthew McConaughey,
Yeah, yeah, he'd be good.
um, Gary
Yeah.
Oldman,
He can
Okay.
be good in everything, man.
but probably my favorite is Josh Brolin.
Oh, I mean, he's a bad guy everywhere.
I didn't even think about Josh Brolin. That's really good. So I'll give you mine. I had Mark Wahlberg.
I
Um,
see. I thought about him. I definitely thought about Mark, but
yeah,
I liked the other guys. I like their edge a little bit more. Not to say that Wahlberg can't be a dick,
yeah.
but those guys are just a little more sandpaper.
I also had Brad Pitt. I think he could be a really like good
Just kind of
mastermind.
like step out of it a little bit, a little different role for him.
Yeah,
He could do it. He totally could do it.
man. Though I'm in between Jamie Foxx and Josh Brolin though. I think Josh Brolin is my pick personally.
And Brolin was my favorite out of
Yeah,
those three.
I
I
like
love Gary
Brolin.
Oldman because he could do it too. But
I'm just
like to use Brian's logic, like Brolin's a little more believable and like someone who could put up a fight.
Yeah.
Guy's a he's a,
yeah.
he's well put together. Like he could do it.
Well, so
Hell, he
let's.
doesn't need a henchman. He could kick your ass himself.
That's bad. I think the only thing against him is you're like, does he even need Jimmy? You know?
Yeah, No.
So like, but let's recast Jimmy anyway. So Marshall Teague at the
Right.
time, 36. Lambert, you go first on this one.
So I had a couple names because I was looking at Dalton, I was looking at Jimmy, and I've got a couple swing people, so I'll save them. But the one person that I had definitively as Jimmy is Shia LaBeouf.
Oh, that's good.
Oh God, that's fucking great. I'm mad I didn't come up with that. Oh, he's a believable
Oh,
fucking psychopath for sure.
Isn't he? Like he's such a believable dick.
yeah.
Brian, do you have anyone better than Shia LaBeouf?
I don't know if it's better. I mean, I have John Cena. Uh,
Well,
his expansion role
I
for
was looking
him.
at him for Dalton, not for
Okay. Yeah, I
he's
could
not
see
on my
that.
like I considered him for Dalton, not for this one because it's
Gotcha.
just too. No, he's too good.
well, the problem though with John Cena is that like if you cast him in either role, who do you cast to be believable enough to like actually have a fight that's somewhat even?
Right.
Like who
Right.
who's the John Cena equivalent to either a bad guy or a good guy? I don't know if there is one.
So
Right.
you know who's a guy who's around the same age that could totally do it? The Mountain. He's like in his mid-30s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but again, he's like double the size of fucking John Cena. Like that's not even
No,
like
that's what I'm saying. Like you could cast him as Dalton, and it'd be believable that he would kick Jimmy's ass.
he'd kick everyone's
That's
ass.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He'd kick everyone's ass.
Well, I have a couple, and I honestly, no one's going to beat Shia LaBeouf. I had Taron Egerton. I'm just trying to think of a guy that like maybe is like could be believable to all of a sudden become like again a sociopath. I
Mhm.
had Richard Madden, who you
Oh,
may
Yep.
know
Game of Thrones. Yep.
what's his name, Rob Stark, and then Darren Criss. Do you guys know who Darren Criss is?
I do not know who that is.
So he was in. I mean, the big thing he was in was Glee, but then he played a character in what was that?
Darren Criss.
What's the TV series about? Like it's like called American or Crime.
Let me see.
Really buffer. I should have written this down, but
American Crime Story.
American Crime Story, and he plays
Yeah.
the guy who killed what's his name, Gucci or not? Is it Gucci or is it not Gucci? Fucking Versace, Giovanni Versace.
Okay.
He plays Andrew Cunanan, and he is like such a believable like dude who just turns into a straight fucking sociopath. And anyway, but having said that,
So like Zach Efron when he played Ted Bundy,
yeah, yeah, where you're
like
like
along those same lines.
super likable and charismatic,
And
but
then all of
also
a sudden he's like, "Holy shit!
yeah, you're
What
like,
did he
oh
just do?"
fuck, what just happened there? But
Right.
having said that, Shia LaBeouf is the winner, right? I mean, I don't. I mean, that's great. All right, Wade. So Sam Elliott at the time was only 45. It's my turn to go first. I like my nominees here. The other ones were okay. I have Bradley Cooper, who I think would be really good.
He's
yeah.
on my he was on my list.
I have Chris Evans. Maybe he's a little bit too physically I don't know, imposing. And then even though he's a little younger, I actually think Wyatt Russell would be pretty good in this role as well.
I went the other direction. I went Sam Elliott.
He's back.
Yeah.
You
Or
could still
Kevin
kick your
Costner.
ass.
Kevin Costner.
Okay,
I
why
think those are
Russell?
both good nominees, but I think we'd have to take a time machine 20 years back in the past.
Yeah, but Sam Elliott looked a lot older than 45 in there.
I know, right? That's why I say he's only 45.
He's
Yeah.
only 45.
Any other nominees?
So I had Bradley Cooper, and I only had one other name.
That's a good one.
It was Joaquin Phoenix.
Ooh.
I think that's not bad, but I think Bradley Cooper is
I like both of those equally. Like, but I like Bradley Cooper. He was on my list too.
he's also smooth. He's pretty. He have the long hair. I could see Bradley Cooper doing that for sure.
Well, and then he's got that little like rough edge to him. Like I think about like his character in A Star Is Born. He's a bouncer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that guy. Like totally believable.
All right, lastly, let's recast Dalton. So, Brian, you go first on this one. This is hard, by the way.
It's difficult. Ryan Reynolds
Mhm.
or Michael B. Jordan.
And I
Big
think
dude.
honestly, if we're doing Michael B. Jordan, you got to put Jamie Foxx in there.
Yeah,
I just think they would play well off each other. I'm not even trying to make this a race thing. I think they would really like play.
sure.
Well. What do you got, Lambert?
All right, I got four. You want me to list all four?
Yeah.
All right. I've got Adam Driver because
Okay.
he's a big dude and he's an ex-Marine.
You're never an ex-Marine.
You're always just a Marine. I have John David Washington
Yeah.
because I like him. And
I thought
then
of him for Jimmy.
Robert, I see, I was considered him. Actually, I thought Adam Driver could be both if he wanted to be.
Mhm.
He could be Jimmy or he could be
I'd say he
Dalton.
could actually do a really good Jimmy too. Yeah.
He could do either. Um, Robert Pattinson, strictly because he played Batman. Like
Yeah.
Batman kind of showed a different side of him, so I think he could probably do it because he's a good looking guy, but he also kind of showed that he has that edge.
Mhm.
And then Jeremy Allen White,
Yeah.
That dude can do no wrong right now, man. He's
and
great.
I had him as both.
He's on top of the
He
world for
could
sure.
Jeremy Allen White could go either. Like he could do Jimmy or he could do Dalton. Like he'd go either way.
Yeah. So I think I like Jeremy Allen White the most. Let me give you my nominees. I kind of took it from the perspective of someone who's believable to be like someone who could beat someone's ass, but also has the demeanor of someone who could also like get punched in the face and then not retaliate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have Theo James.
Okay.
Why do I know that name?
He's like in all the Divergent
The
movies.
Virgin.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He
Yeah, I
was
never
in
saw it.
Australian guy in the first Suicide Squad.
Oh, okay, and he's in the new
Bike
there's a
Riders?
show on Netflix based on
Yes.
what The Gentleman.
Time Traveler's Wife. He's
Yes.
also in The Gentleman. Yeah. He's he's really good, I think. And then Kit Harrington, just to keep the game. I'm just saying they're both very cool, and
Yeah.
I think that they would be cool enough to like possibly get in a fight, but also be like, I don't need to play with you. I'm too big of a badass. And a hush fell over the crowd. This is a tough one.
So who do you like? Who do you like the most?
I personally like Theo James the most. That and that's I know that's me saying that, but you guys don't know Theo James enough, I think, to like appreciate that.
I know Theo
I,
James.
I only know him in one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Lambert, what was the last one you said? Who's your favorite?
I have Adam Driver, John David Washington, Robert Pattinson, and Jeremy Allen White.
I think Jeremy Allen White actually is a really good pick for that. And
Yeah.
I love Jeremy Allen White, so like, you know,
I mean, listen, he's hot. You gotta cast him while he's hot, you know.
Gotta get him while he's hot. Or Jake Gyllenhaal. What do I know?
Yeah.
all right, we'll get that category in just one second. Next
I don't
one,
know. Just kidding.
to stream or not to stream? Is this better as a TV show?
Yeah.
I say not a chance. No way.
Yeah. It's perfect
I said
as it is, right?
I said yes and no.
Okay, Lambert always has a good storyline for this. We're good.
So, and the only reason why I said like, do I agree that it's a great movie? Yes. Could you turn it into a TV show? Sure, because you could stretch this out to where every season is a new city that Dalton visits and a new bar. So there's a new girl, there's a new bar, there's a new bad guy, and like the season finale could be the wrap up for that city, and then he goes on to the next thing, and then he does that, and then that's the next season, next season, next season, next season.
I like the
However,
18.
right, except it's like by season instead of like by
Right.
episode, like A Team or Kung Fu.
Right.
But you could also do that just via sequels of the movie. So you could just make a movie like you had Roadhouse 1. There actually was a
Mhm.
Roadhouse 2, but like Roadhouse 2 could be with Patrick Swayze as Dalton going somewhere else. And
Right.
then 3 could be going somewhere else. So like Die Hard,
Yeah. Or
basically.
Jack Reacher.
Or Jack Reacher or something like that. So like
I don't know if
you
you've
could
read
do
those
it.
books or not, but
You could do it either way. I watched the
yeah,
show on Amazon is awesome.
I love it. Yeah.
I've read the books too,
So
and I actually think this is kind of stepping on the next category, which is tomorrow's another day. So like, what happens next? And I wrote down he goes to another bar, another town, or like he's
Right.
becomes like
right.
a wandering soldier essentially, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, okay. So I agree.
Yeah.
That would be the
Like
only
Kane in Kung Fu.
yeah, right.
Exactly.
So that would be a good premise for future movies, and also a good premise possibly for a TV series.
Yeah.
Or if there wasn't a sequel, because I took it a different way, because I kind of went through the like stream or not to stream. I kind of took the sequel route. For the Tomorrow's Another Day, I went a completely different way in that he takes all the money that he's owned, that he's made like throughout his career, and then he buys into the Double Deuce to co-own it. So he doesn't buy it off the guy. He co-owns it because he gets off the front lines because he's done with that, and then maybe turn it into a franchise, open up multiple locations, and then he settles down with Elizabeth and gets married.
That's very sweet. That's the most boring show or movie I've
I'm
ever.
just saying what happens. Like if you take like that movie and what happens
Yeah.
directly after that, that could happen.
Oh, you can't cage Patrick Swayze. He's not. No way.
I'm just saying it could.
So this category we put in here special for movies that have had a remake, since it's called A Star Is Born. So what are our thoughts on the remake? A couple quick things about the remake that just came out, and again in 2024. Jake Gyllenhaal plays Dalton. A lot of these characters are new, but they're also like parallels. So Daniela Melchior plays Ellie, who is the Elizabeth parallel. Conor McGregor plays Knox, who is obviously Jimmy.
Hmm.
Bill Magnuson plays Ben Brandt. He's not actually Wesley, he's Wesley's son. We don't actually see Wesley. Wesley's in prison. Joaquim de Almeida plays the sheriff, and he has no parallel in the original, but he's the bad guy from Clear and Present Danger. That's how most people.
Yep.
There is no Wade character. Couple plot differences. First of all, we actually do have like part of the main plot is like the background of Dalton, which is his
Yeah.
trauma in the UFC, and he fought a friend and he killed his friend basically. It's a bar in Florida as opposed to a bar in Missouri. Um, there's a Charlie in the bookstore, like the kid. I mean, that's kind of like a story that doesn't really exist. You still have the "no one ever wins in a fight" quote, which I'm glad they brought that back.
Mm-hmm.
It's really I don't really think it's like a good representation of like I don't know like a getting rid of shady shit at the bar. Like I don't think it focuses more on like the town and the drugs, and like it doesn't really focus so much as like I don't know I don't think it does a good enough job with as the original does. So anyway, did we like it? The new one? Any thoughts as far as pros, cons? Brian, you go first.
I thought it was fine for being a remake of Roadhouse because I like Roadhouse so much. If it weren't a remake of Roadhouse, I would have never watched it. I wouldn't have given it time of day, and I wouldn't. And if I would have watched it differently, I might have said that kind of reminds me of Roadhouse, especially because his name's Dalton. But other than that, it's really not. It's the same type of concept. Where okay, after Die Hard came out, then there were a lot of different things that kind of mimic Die Hard and all of that. So
I don't know, whatever. Yeah.
yeah, so it was fine. Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal was fine. He seemed to be doing it for the paycheck, really. He always had a smile on his face, and there's nothing wrong with doing it for the paycheck. Good for you, right? But
He got jacked though, man. Like
he
it's
did get jacked. Yeah,
pretty,
and was it Michael Bay or something like they love blowing shit up in this one.
yeah.
So
Yeah, it was definitely again one of the pros is that it's super over the top. Like even like the boat
yeah,
scene and like the ridiculousness of like the boat.
yeah.
You're like
So
they're all
I
dead.
didn't hate
This is
it.
also fun. It's basically like an 80s movie in 2024.
Right. Yeah, I didn't hate it, but I don't know. I'll give it another watch, but I didn't hate it.
Well, I gave it another watch last night, and
Okay.
I was texting John about this, and I have many thoughts, but hot take. I fucking think this movie is great.
Really?
I
Okay.
I just love it. Like, and maybe it's the fucking bourbon talking or whatever, but like when I was watching it last night, and again, I had a couple beers, and I was like, this movie is so over the top. It is amazing. Conor McGregor is so bad. I think he like somehow becomes
He
good.
is bad.
He's
God,
so
he's
bad,
terrible.
but
He is so
I'm
bad.
like captivated by him on the screen. I'm like,
I
he's
don't
so
know how.
terrible. What ridiculous shit is he gonna say right now? Oh, that line is
Right.
so corny and cheesy. I
It's
fucking
so
maybe it's
bad
because I feel like I'm deprived of movies like this right now. There are not movies like this that don't take themselves like they just don't doesn't
because they don't make movies like this now.
I know, and
Right.
that I think that's what it is. I like yearning for a movie that doesn't take itself seriously, isn't trying to do more than it is, just over the top ridiculous, and really leans into it. It's almost like a Fairley Brothers movie. You're like, we're just gonna. You think that was stupid and ridiculous? We're gonna fucking one up the next joke, and this
They were
is
definitely in on the joke. Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
and we're okay with that. And the fight scenes are really good. I thought like
Yeah.
Gyllenhaal and obviously Conor McGregor is a badass fighter, so I'm gushing about this movie. It's
Okay.
not a good movie, but I it's definitely going to be a guilty pleasure. I come home, I need my brain to shut off. I've had a couple cocktails
Right.
beyond to like go to sleep. Roadhouse, the new one is in the rotation.
Oh, nice. Okay, perfect.
Lambert, thoughts?
Um, I mean, overall, I enjoyed it. Again, knowing that it was a remake, and it doesn't get made if the original doesn't get made. Connor Break. I mean, we already talked about it. Connor's character was too over the top, in my opinion. Like he needed to take it down a couple notches to make it a little more believable
Yeah.
because he was just a fucking psychopath. Like again, like you're playing a psychopath, but like, was he really playing a psychopath, or is that just how Conor McGregor is?
Right.
I don't know. I do like the fact that, like, and we talked about this at the very beginning. I like the fact that they gave Dalton the backstory and a believable one.
Yeah.
They explained who he was. Like he was an ex UFC fighter and got the shit kicked out of him and got washed out. But like, it gave you a reason to understand that, like, yes, this guy can fight,
Yeah.
and kind of makes sense that he would be doing this kind of work given his background. So I really did like that about the remake,
Right.
because in the first one it's just you just get dropped in. It's like, hey, there's this guy, cool. How'd he get this way? Nobody knows. He just showed up one day.
How did Clint Eastwood get that way in Pale Rider? So
Right, because he's Clint
I like
Eastwood.
the idea. I like the mystery of it. I like
Well, I do think this
sometimes I like when the Beatles just start the song instead of, having to do an intro and then start the song. Just start the song. This is a slice of life, a crazy fucking life. But yeah, I like the mystery of it in the original. So the backstory was like a backstories kind of bug me anyway when it comes to superhero movies and stuff like that. So
I think it was an interesting spin on it, and again, I'm
I
interested.
agree.
I do think though that it does speak to like I think the bigger problem with a lot of these movies that are being remade. I wish they'd pick a bad movie and remake it, and not pick a good movie or a loved movie and remake it. Like, why do they keep remaking?
Right.
And I guess that's like the idea of we're gonna remake this movie and it was so popular then, so we remake it again, it'll be just as popular. But that
So we can make money again.
that's never the case. All these movies that are remade, I mean, there's a few, like again, A Star is Born is like one example where it actually
And that's every couple of generations they make that.
right. But
Mm-hmm.
like, why remake Point Break? Like that movie was classic and great. Maybe remake like fucking Navy SEALs.
Yeah. Or
That would be awesome.
I'm saying a movie that was
yeah.
obviously garbage, but you'd be like, oh, they're having a new version of this. Uh, maybe I'll be down with that because that movie sucks so bad.
Yeah. Disappointing movies that should be remade is what you're
Remake
saying.
fucking Waterworld, like a
Yeah.
movie that
The Last Boy Scout.
okay, all right.
Don't talk shit about the last voice.
Pump the brakes a little bit, Brian. Okay.
I do love that movie a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Everybody loves it.
How
I love
dare
that movie
you?
a
How
lot.
dare you?
yeah.
How dare you, sir?
Next category. Let's get into some nerd facts. So let's kind of take turns going around here. Patrick,
Oh,
so if you there's actually a really awesome how the movies that made us on Netflix, and they get into Dirty Dancing, and there's like a lot about Patrick Swayze, and he was a dancer, and he was also a really good football player, and he had his knees were all fucked up, and he reheard it again during this movie. Here's a really fun like a what path he could have possibly gone down. He actually chose to make Ghost next because it was less strenuous. He turned down playing Cash in Tango and Cash, as well as Mike Harrigan in Predator 2. So he could have been, which is Danny Glover's character.
which is
So
Danny Glover's, yeah.
like, so he could have been, yeah, in both Tango and Cash and Predator 2.
So he could have been Kurt Russell or Danny Glover.
What an interesting butterfly effect if he doesn't do those two roles.
Right. That is interesting. So we kind of already talked about this one, but we'll mention it again. Didn't get along with Patrick
Yeah.
Swayze. While filming their big fight, both men quickly realized they shared a dedication to realistic stunts. They developed a mutual trust and that they improvised a lot and allowed each other to throw real punches and kicks. When Jimmy swings a log at Dalton, Teague mistakenly thought it was a breakable prop log. By the end, Swayze would covered in bruises with 2 broken ribs and a busted knee.
Ouch.
The busted knee that prevented him from taking those other roles.
Probably.
I think he would have been good in Tango and Cash.
I think it would have been great.
He also would have been good in Predator 2, frankly, but yeah.
Me? According to Sam Elliott, all of the actors did their own stunts. I fucking got the shit kicked out of me for the entire film. They were all trained by Benny. Wow. Urquidez, a holder of 9 black belts in 9 different disciplines. Urquidez believed so much in Patrick Swayze's abilities that he suggested Swayze become a competitive kickboxer. So apparently he was fight coordinator or trainer on Spider-Man, Con Air, Street Fighter, Blood In, Blood Out, and Natural Born Killers.
It's a good list.
Heck of a resume. Yeah. So screenwriter David Lee Henry said that Dalton was named after the town of Dalton, Georgia. Apparently, he stopped at a bar there during a road trip and ended up serving in part as the inspiration for his trip. So I wonder if there were chain link fences in that bar.
Maybe.
So, and we kind of mentioned this before, but both Swayze and Ben Gazzara died of pancreatic cancer 3 years apart, 2009 and 2012, which is crazy.
I was watching a lot of reels, and some of these things were mentioned in like things on Instagram that I saw.
Yep.
Yeah. I didn't realize that Annette Bening was originally cast as Doc. She was replaced by Kelly Lynch, who was under contract to United Artists. Lynch claims that Bening was fired due to her lack of chemistry with Patrick Swayze. Now I find that hard to believe. I tend to agree with you, Justin. Maybe we don't want anyone with chemistry or that's going to bring anything to the role. Sometimes we just want vanilla ice cream.
Yeah, and I think that like this movie, and Lambert, to your recasting ideas for another Spider-Man again, if Annette Bening is in this movie, your characters make your nominees
a lot more sense.
A lot more sense.
They make a lot more sense.
So, but not to shit on Kelly Lynch. Apparently, she reportedly spent a month hanging around a real emergency room to prepare for the role. She learned the proper way to sew a medical stitch, but then the script changed and she never got to do it. So,
so she was going to have a deeper role.
Trying to be method
and ripped it out of her.
Yeah.
Bullshit. The Otis Redding song "These Arms of Mine" is used during one of the love scenes between Swayze and Lynch. In Dirty Dancing, the same song is used during the initial love scene between Swayze and Jennifer Grey. He loves that song.
It's a good song.
Great song. He also loves to sing, apparently, or loved to sing. And so just as he did with Dirty Dancing, where I believe the song was She's Like the Wind, was on the soundtrack. He does sing a song on the soundtrack of this called Cliff's Edge, and it's heard on a radio in the background in the film.
Final category, inner nerd thoughts. Did we learn anything? I have a few thoughts. I'll start with my first thought, and then if anybody else wants to have some thoughts in there, you guys can throw them in there. Has there ever been a more famous bouncer? This is a hard question. I get it. but I don't think there is. I did some research to try and find bouncers at bars and bouncers at... I mean, there are definitely TV episodes where like the bouncer is like the main antagonist. and there's a little bit of that in movies, but I think that he is like the creme de la creme of bouncers.
Or coolers, yeah,
Or
depending.
coolers, yeah.
Besides the cooler, yeah. All right, I got one more. Fenced in bands. Who did it best? I only have two nominees. This movie and then the Blues Brothers.
The Blues
Oh,
Brothers.
the Blues Brothers.
Done.
Yeah.
There.
But yeah,
That's it. That's an easy question.
yeah.
All right. Anybody else have any thoughts they want to share? Because I got a couple more.
I just love the movie. I think
All right, we're gonna get to final thoughts in a second. These
okay.
are all right. Here's two more questions I had. How easy is it to actually pull out a person's trachea? I'm pretty sure this was tested on
Mythbusters.
Busters, I believe.
Awesome.
And I think they proved it's actually not that hard if you really like just commit. I think that's the hardest part is being like, I'm ripping out someone's throat. This is fucking weird.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's similar to like ripping off someone's ear. It doesn't take that much pressure to rip someone's ear off, but
Have to
you got
keep
to commit.
as you
You
feel.
got
Yeah.
to just
Yeah. Ugh.
you got to hold that grip and just keep pulling.
Oh.
All right. My last
Oh.
was so the character Teague, right? The more portly fellow.
Yeah.
Is he like the new Ike Clanton? Like they like he he's big and tough with his boys, but as soon as he's the only one left, he's like, I surrender. I'm sorry. I messed up.
A
Like,
bear fell on me.
yeah. I immediately thought of Ike Clanton from
Yeah.
Tombstone as soon as he just bitched out and everyone else got to go.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't shoot, don't shoot.
Oh yeah, right. I was like, oh, this fucking guy is the worst. Okay, well,
That guy
now
sucks.
now Brian, any final thoughts that you might have about this movie you want to share?
Uh, it was a really, yeah, listen, it was what, 1989? So I was 18 or 17, 18 years old. It was awesome. It was the perfect time for this movie to come out, right? It was a badass movie. I just love it. It came at a very particular time in my life that it just struck on all cylinders. It's a perfect 80s film. Swayze, it solidified him as an action star and not just a dancing guy. But it meant that my girlfriend would go to the movie theater with me to watch it. So it was fantastic. So I love it.
Yeah, well said, Lambert.
I mean, I can't say it much better than that. Again, couldn't tell you the first time I saw it. Could have been 3 years ago. Could have been 10 years ago. But um, this is turned into one of those movies where if it's on, I gotta watch at least a little bit of it. I might not sit through the whole thing, but like if it's there, it's like, it's Roadhouse. Let me see where it's
Yes.
at. And then it kind of turns into what we were talking about earlier. It's like, oh well, I gotta watch it until it's here. Oh, now
Yeah.
this scene's coming up. Oh, now this scene's coming up, and then you might get sucked in, you might not. But I mean, that's kind of what it's turned into. It's risen to that status of like, I gotta at least check it out to see where it's at.
Yeah, I mean, again, not to be redundant, but it's like one of the most prototypical 80s action movies. And it gives you the opportunity to sit back, relax, how cinema's supposed to be, turn your brain off, enjoy the over-the-top action, nudity, uh, fucking violence, ridiculousness that
Yeah.
a film can provide. And I think it's just good old-fashioned movie making. And I do think
Mm-hmm.
the new one, just to sell the new one again, as if I work for them, does a really good job of that too. It's so fucking terrible and stupid.
Yeah.
But
Oh, it's
I would
definitely made in the same vein. Yeah,
I would
for
say
sure.
the new Roadhouse is a very good bad movie. This is, I don't think, a bad movie, personally.
Gotcha. I can understand that. But I think that they both accomplish the same thing in that they give you a very good avenue for suspending your disbelief, for your willing suspension of disbelief, right? And instead, you know things like this aren't happening in the world. You know that any kind of fight like that would be all over the news and people would be in jail. And this is not, this is just
Well,
the small town justice.
But even like the fight scenes where it's like now you watch
thing and
TV
everything else. But
shows and you're like, oh, this guy.
but it's
I was gonna say like now you watch movies and TV shows and you're like, oh, this guy got 5 punches to the face. He's gonna be in the hospital for 4 weeks. Um,
right.
where in this movie, it's he gets 3 bottles broken over his head, 10 kicks to the face, couple punches to the, and he's fine.
Yeah.
Not a bruise to be seen. he's got to
Right.
he's got to get 3 stitches.
Yeah. Three stitches
That's
or
only because he got
staples.
stabbed in the fucking chest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So we
pain
were
don't hurt.
talking about Hildebrand, you brought up the new one and like the good bad movie. So I had to do some quick research, and so from a BS ratings perspective, it got like Rotten Tomatoes 59%, audience score of 53. So the
Oh,
audience score is actually lower than the critic score, the tomato meter, so to speak, and then IMDb 6.2.
oh,
Wow.
exactly the same as the right,
Well, IMDb so
or six point
audience
seven
score
was
for
the
original is
original.
higher, but the Rotten Tomato score is higher for the remake.
Hmm.
Interesting,
Interesting.
That is super fascinating. Yeah.
interesting. So just thought
Well,
I'd just put that out there.
I think if you're listening to this episode, you know that all three of us 100% recommend you seeing Roadhouse. If you haven't already, and I guess
Both.
I'm on
Go
the
see
limb.
both.
I'm on the limb. See the second one too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, final part of the show, our nerd outreach. Thank yous. Obviously, we're going to thank Brian for joining us today, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. That was fun.
It's been a lot of fun. Lambert, you always have some type of. I'm actually. I'll do a sentimental thank you / shout out. Again, already mentioned my uncle Lester. My uncle Jerry just had open heart surgery today, and it all went well. Apparently, I guess the next one.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Yeah, the next 24 hours apparently is tough with possible. I First day is apparently complications and things like that. So give him my best, and hopefully everything.
Infection and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
works
I
well.
would imagine.
He's a good dude. So
Where's he at? Which hospital? Is he in town or?
at Mopap.
Okay, there you
Okay.
go. Hey, both my kids were born in Mobap. Go Mobap.
And mine.
I got my grad degree from Mobap. So
Yes,
yeah,
yes, you did. Yes, you did.
one of them. Yeah, go Mobap. Lambert, do you have something sentimental or heartfelt or thank you?
I do. I wanted to say thank you to everybody at Clarkson Wilson Vet. They have taken care of all my dogs. Recently, we had to put Boomer down a couple weeks ago. We got a little urn for him, so I'm picking him up tomorrow so he can come back home. But they've always done a good job of taking care of Zeppelin and Boomer and still Blaze and Emmy. So thank you to them.
Yeah, this has been like the most heartfelt thank yous. In a long- That's good. We do have a heart.
Nice.
So, of course, we love our listeners. So we always ask everyone to, rate, share, like, etc. Send us show ideas to our email, nerdisnewcoolpodcast@gmail.com, Facebook, Instagram, X, Twitter, whatever. You can also watch any of our nerd bites and nerd takes on YouTube. Next episode preview, we're doing a 1994 draft, and we're calling in Mr. Andrew Lambert,
Yeah.
father of John, because this is the year he graduated high school, and he's going to bring a very unique perspective to 94 that us little middle schoolers maybe couldn't quite do.
Probably wouldn't grasp. Yeah.
Yeah, and Brian, you were on our last draft, right? With 93.
Yeah, he did the
I
93
think so.
draft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 94 is amazing. I mean, just from a film standpoint, you've got Pulp Fiction, Shawshank Redemption,
There's a lot of
Yeah.
a lot of
Tons.
really, really good.
tons.
Do the research on music too. It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, good luck with that.
We were, maybe we'll do another draft that isn't consecutive years. We're not going to do a 95 draft. Maybe we'll do a 2000 or a
Sure.
90. Maybe we'll jump around a little bit.
Right.
So
Right.
we'll get you
We'll
back
do
to the draft in the future.
We'll do a 74 draft.
Ooh, I like that.
Ooh.
I don't know. We'll see.
All right,
Music would be badass. So.
oh yeah,
Hell yeah.
that'd be pretty good. Well, until next time, thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
All right.
I think it's already on. Yeah.
Yeah, I already hit. Yeah, I hit record. I that's my new thing. Because one time we recorded for 40 minutes and I didn't hit I didn't record the whole time.
We did that a
Oh,
couple.
that would
We
suck.
did that a couple.
We've done it a
Made
couple
that
times,
mistake.
and you
Yeah.
just can't remake the second time. You just can't remake the magic. It's never as good as the first time.
No, it's not.
One of these days, I'll tell you the worst story about something like that, but it would take too long. So let's move on.
All right. Okay.